Welcome to mt4gadgets.com, and in this video we are continuing with the learning of operators for MQL5 programming language. In this video in particular we are going to see the loop operators, which are keywords or operators that are specifically designed to repeat specific actions or portions of code for a number of times. This can be a number of iterations, or it could be until a condition is met. The main loop operators are two. One is the for loop and one is the while loop. We're going to see them both in an example, which is much easier. So let's jump right in. Here we are in MetaEditor already, MetaEditor for MetaTrader version 5 or MT5. I created a blank new file, which is a new script, and I called it loops. What we're going to do is add in a comment, very simple, to describe what the script does is examples of loop operators. And more specifically, for loop and while loop. On start is the predefined start function for scripts, which will trigger the moment you install or mount a script into a chart. So just for the purpose of learning about loop operators, first we're going to create a for loop for an iteration of 10 times. For loops start with the keyword for, and how it works is in three parts. First is the declaration and initialization of a variable, which we will call E as an index or a counter with a value of 0. Second is the condition for which the loop will continue running, which is E is less than 10. And the third is what to do at each iteration. Can set as is plus plus, and what code to perform, which we will enclose in the brackets. So to read it again, the operator for the for loop is for, and then between parentheses, first we declare a counter, what to verify of the counter, and what to do with the counter. So we define a counter I equals to 0, which is an integer, and until the counter is less than 10. At each iteration we I++, so we increment the value of I of 1 unit. And what do we do for the duration? What do we repeat for the duration of the loop? We will do a simple printing or logging the value of E. Simple way with a print function. So print the value of I is, and we add I in there. That's all it does. So what the code basically executes is it starts, it sees there is a loop, the loop defines for E less than 10, repeat the code in the brackets, and at each execution increment the value of I. So if we compile this one, you can ignore the implicit conversions from int to string. That's just this I there, which we are using in a print function which usually accepts a string. It can be ignored, it's not cause of an error. So compiling, we have the loops there, and if we jump in the MetaTrader platform and open the scripts, we refresh the scripts there. We need a chart to mount it to our USD, so it's a good chart. And the print function will print anything that is in the value of the function in the experts tab. So if we take loop and we drag it into the chart, we can see that for 10 times there is a repetition of the print value and printing the value of I, which initially will be 0 because the loop starts with I equals to 0. So the first time that it executes, print the value of I is 0. And after this is completed, the value of I is incremented of 1 unit, so it will become 1, and the loop will repeat for 10 times until I is less than 10, and then exit. And you can see here how the loop has repeated 10 times until I is less than 10. And when I was 10, the loop exited. Hopefully that gives you an understanding of the for loop, and we can achieve the same with a while loop in a slightly different way. While loop starts with while. Oops, let's clean that up. Let's indent, and then while we can say I less than 10. What do? We print the value of I is, and again I. One of the differences with the while loop is that if you use a counter like this, we need to have the counter already defined. So before we start the while loop, we need to define the I variable, I equals 0. And also you are missing the increment or what to do at each execution. And so we'll need to include I++ in the code. So this will have the same outcome of the other, or the for loop. So we can go and check. Firstly, we clear all of the output, and then we loop again, and we have the exact same output in through the while loop. The while loop I find is a bit more flexible because you can use conditions instead of counters. So for example, if you want to verify or do something until a variable is true, and you can use usually Boolean variables, that's a good way to use or leverage the while loop. So for example, we have Boolean is trading day, which we make up, and we say true. So we can say until is trading day equals true, then say today is a trading day. And then we can say if, for example, E is higher than 10, then is trading day equals false. So we still need the I variable, int E equals 0. And this is just an example, so it probably wouldn't work in this way in a real case scenario. But just for the example, we have a variable or a counter I equals 0, starting from 0. We have a Boolean variable as is trading day, which starts as true, and until basically or while is trading day equals true, execute all of this code. So print today is a trading day, and then verify if I is greater than 10, then is trading day becomes false. And that will kick out from the loop, because at the next execution is trading day will not be true, and the loop will exit from this execution. So if we test it, clear the output again, and then loop, and then see, this is a trading day. So it executes the code for a number of times until is trading day. Lastly, in loop operators, okay, so again, while you use mostly when you need to verify a condition, and the for loop is mostly when you want to repeat a number of actions for a specific number of time and using a counter. When working with the loop operators, it's very useful to also know the continue and break operators, which can be used both in for loops and while loops. So if we go back to for loop, for example, for int I equals 0, I less than 10, I plus plus, and then print the value of I is I. So we have two options, continue and break. Continue is a loop operator that tells the loop to skip this iteration of the loop. So we can use it in conjunction with the conditional operator. So for example, if I equals 5, then you can say continue. This will tell the loop if I equals 5, then continue. Continue means skip everything that is after and restart from the next iteration. And also we have the break operator, which is used to exit or force exit from a loop based on some sort of condition. So for example, if I equals 7, then break. This means that if you enter this condition, so if I is equal to 7, exit the loop without continuing, without doing anything else. So We compiled it, no errors, and if we run it, what we expect would be basically 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 will not print this because I equals 5, so we just continue with the next one. So we will print 6, and then when it's 7, it will exit the loop without executing this. So we would expect to see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Let's verify if that's the expected outcome. So we've got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 as expected. So to resume or to recap the lesson, for loop for those repeated actions that need to run a number of times, while loop for repeated actions that will need to repeat until a condition is met, continue operator when you want to ignore a portion of the code based on a condition and you want to continue with the next iteration of the loop, and break when you want to force exit from a loop. Hopefully now you've got a good understanding of loop operators. They are very useful. They are used very, very often in any type of code. So I really recommend to do some experiment and test with this. Just play around because definitely you will use them very often. Hopefully this lesson taught you something. And if you haven't already, come and check us out at mt4gadgets.com, and I hope to see you soon.